Welcome to the Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast. Join host Marco Torres, co-founder of MarketingBoost.com, along with expert guests as they deliver incredible, proven solutions to your marketing challenges in each power-packed episode. Captain Marco has guided thousands of entrepreneurs, growing their sales and marketing through the use of value-add incentives. His Facebook groups are home to more than 84,000 entrepreneurs who are raking in sales with his advice. Get ready to be blown away with game-changing lessons for your business.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast show. Today, we've got a special guest. You're going to enjoy this. I am as well, as we talk about branding. We've got Hirsch is the rarest. Hirsch Rapsin is the rarest of all of rare thinkers. He combines the yin with the yang, the creativity of the yin with the yang of true branding, grasping the DNA of a brand and being able to crack open the energy in a way that is fresh and connects to the audience is something of incredible value, which is what he does. He's been a comedian most of his life and taken that background as a comedian to then find ways to integrate that into branding, messaging that strikes out, that stands out from everybody else. When I met him at a podcast event in Salt Lake City, Utah. Love the man. We had a great time and really enjoyed getting to see how he helps brands build and grow their business. So, Hirsch, say hello.
Hello, Marco. Great to see you. Thank you for having me. Thanks for the intro. Yeah, that covered it. It was a great event, and lots of interviews and lots of time to just kind of get to know one another. It was really wonderful.
Exactly. And so give us for those that are listening who don't know you, we might as well start back with a little bit of your, your background. How did you get into the idea of deciding you wanted to focus on helping others brand themselves? But I love your story of, the being in the stand-up comedy and how that relates to branding.
Yeah, well, actually, the funny thing is I never tell this story, but it makes sense because of the Florida connection. I was born in Miami. So my stand-up career, quote unquote, actually started at a hotel in Miami. Was it the Newport?
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
The Newport. And they had a comedy night, like an open mic night. And a bunch of my friends and I went, we were probably 16 years old, 17. And I did stand up there. So that actually was the first time I did stand up. But years later, when I was not many years later, but a few years later, when I was coming out of college and I went to School of Visual Arts in New York, and I was really studying filmmaking, but I was still doing stand-up, and I was doing all the clubs in New York. But the chairman of the school said, why don't you study advertising? Why don't you study branding a little bit? Like, you have a real great ear, and I'll bet brands would pay you a lot of money for what you do. And compared to what the life is of a stand-up comedian on the road, it actually did appeal to me. And that, I think, is where those two parts of my personality started to develop. But I kept developing the creative one on one side, what I consider to be the creative or the comedy performance. And I was on MTV for a little while on a show, and I was doing stand up, and I would write screenplays and had a few little movies made. And that's one life. And then on the other side, I would really do what we consider to be PR for people in the advertising industry. So I became like a copywriter's copywriter, or a copywriter's publicist almost, and a director's publicist, and a filmmaker's publicist. And I just have always loved what creative people do. And so I promoted that for a long time. But then I was approached by some brands to actually help them change their image. And one early example was Bear Paw Footwear where, they were competing all the time with UGG, which was the, market leader. UGG had a very stuffy image, a very kind of elitist kind of, we're the best looking people on the ocean, on the beach. And Bear Paw was much more of like a soccer mom vibe. And we built together, built that brand up to a place where it really flourished. And that was the beginning where footwear brands and other brands, beverage brands and fitness brands, it didn't really matter. What mattered was that they had a heart and soul, that they needed someone to kind of bring it out and make their words special. Because, you see a lot of websites, it's the same stuff over and over. People end up following pattern of what they think people want to hear, and they'll just play it safe with their language, hoping not to offend anybody, not to get it wrong, whatever. And, and I'm more of an advocate of, sell the truth, but deal with your truth, deal with your honesty, but put it out in a way that's really grabby, that really makes you stand out, whatever it is that you're about. And that's been my true calling, I think.
Going back to what you said a moment ago, it's amazing how one educator, one teacher who takes an interest in what you do can guide your entire future by, so those of you that happen to be educators out there, keep in mind how powerful that is to guide somebody. And when you spot talent, and that educator back then told you, hey, you should focus on getting some advertising under your belt so that you can do more.
Yeah.
And before you know it, that turned into a lifelong career for you alongside of what you've been doing with comedy. So tell us the kind of the flow. In other words, if or take the conversation wherever you want it to go, Hirsch. How do you help small companies? I mean, most of the Marketing Boost audience, well, those that are listening, Marketing Boost is a subscription model. Let me take a kind of a moment to tell everybody what Marketing Boost is, kind of an infomercial here. Marketingboost.com. If you're not familiar with that, listening to this for the first time, Marketing Boost is a subscription-based model providing business owners the wow, surprise, and delight factor. We give you the ability to give away complimentary hotel stays, hotel savings cards, and restaurant savings vouchers. And we teach you how to add those into whatever your call to action is of value. So anyway, our Marketing Boost members are entrepreneurs of all kinds, and branding and standing out from the crowd is obviously something we probably all struggle with. How do we set ourselves apart? How do we, and I think reading from your site and watching your videos, it's, finding that, taking a moment to define myself, so to speak, so that I can make that brand, as you say. But yeah, take it away. Tell us more on how you guide people to work on their brand.
Well, I think a lot of it has to do with what I call message therapy. And someone said to me recently, oh, message therapy has like a negative connotation. I said, well, first of all, it doesn't, in my opinion, but that's part of a whole other stigma that we're not supposed to need help, right? That we're not supposed to need any help. And I think in business, sometimes we have that feeling too. I'm smart. I know who I am. I know my brand. I don't need any help. It's not that you need help. So you need perspective. You need somebody's perspective. You think I don't go to my friends who are copywriters and branding specialists and ask them for their input and vice versa? We need perspective. So what I realized about myself is that I have, with all these brands that I've worked with, my special gift is that I can listen to them talk about themselves and offer that perspective. And then I'm able to turn that into words. So the first part of every association that I have with a brand, whether it was formalized or not, is to sit down with them and really have like a therapy session and talk to them about their brand and get a sense of where they're at. And honestly, that's the beginning of everything, because I don't know whether they need to do an ad campaign or whether they just need to fix their online presence, or do they maybe need to, do they have a really great email list that they're not using? They're not giving them, they're not putting their product there the right way. Maybe I can help them with an email. I don't know what it is. So that therapy session is really the first step, you know? And I would say, I'm happy to offer your guests, you know, like a therapy session. If they want to do 30 minutes of, you know, therapy, literally message therapy, you know, it's not a getting to know
therapy,
you call.
You're doing a discovery and then figuring out what direction could they take it. And I would imagine you're always looking for a way to add a comedic angle to, or not always.
Yeah. Well, comedy is one of those things where it kind of, I don't dictate whether it's going to be comedic. It's whether it really fits. So, you know, you could have a client that, you know, let's say you notice, you know, a lot of ads for insurance are comedic for auto insurance, right? Geico, Progressive, Liberty Mutual. It's like, you know, State Farm, all comedy. And that's one of the most serious things in the world. Car accident, God forbid, damage, loss of, you know, but the reason they
mayhem angle,
mayhem, right?
Yeah.
But the reason they do that is because they're diffusing the tension and anxiety that people have over the situation. And so they create a world in which it's okay to laugh about something that could be serious. And then at the same time, they're protecting you from something that might be serious. And that's what they're all doing. They're all doing that, but they're all doing it in different ways. Most of them very well, very effectively. So I think there's a time and a place for humor to diffuse the harsh reality that we're facing with some of the things we need. And that's how we determine whether it should be funny. I think wit is important. I don't know if it's going to be funny. Like when you read the company's website, it may not be funny, may not make you laugh, but may make you smile or make you feel good. You know, that warm feeling, a feeling of trust, a know you, like you, trust you thing, you know?
And the language used to show some wit and yet stay on point with the message. And as you say, yeah, bring in some warmth and build that relationship with the right language. Not easily done, but that's why we have experts like you.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
So if we were, why don't we try it with Marketing Boost? If I was in your therapy session, what kind of questions would you? Let me open up myself and risk here on this show.
I appreciate that.
What kind of questions would you ask me to dig into my therapy?
Well, the first thing I would say is, do you dream a lot? Like, do you have dreams when you're sleeping?
I do. They're not always about business, but sometimes they are.
No, but it depends. Do you remember that? Do you remember the dreams in the morning?
Not very often, no.
Not very often.
If I wake up in the middle of the night, sometimes I will. I used to write them down when they popped up with good ideas. I haven't been doing that in a while. I used to have a notebook next to my bed, but probably get back to that, because often when I wake up, then they're gone.
And do you feel like you're at a deficit if you don't have new ideas in the morning, or you don't wake up with new ideas? Like, what's your day like?
No, my day starts with jotting down. Well, first starting out with gratitude for everything that, I'll sit down and have my coffee and give thanks to all the many blessings that have come my way this week, this month, this year, and so forth. And then I'll start writing down everything that's in my, from my notepad book. I'm writing down stuff that I was supposed to do yesterday, what I got to do today that matches my goals for the week, goals for the month, and then start taking down into what are the top, of the top 10 things I need to work on this week. what are the two most important that I can start tackling today and get them out of the way? So I try to always go down this rule, 80-20 rule, and start reducing what is the most important things that I need to accomplish or that I can delegate out.
That's good. That's a good process, I think. Do you feel like you're helping enough people? You know, you sound like you have pretty heart-centered approach to what you do. Do you feel like with Marketing Boost, the people that can be helped by that are being reached?
No, I always feel like I'm not reaching as many as I'd like to be. And part of the reason I do this podcast is to, provide expert conversations with people like you to provide more help, provide inspiration, provide ideas, and help business owners succeed. Because that is, at the end of the day, what does drive me today with Marketing Boost is how do I successfully help more people? One of the very first books I ever read as a young, I was an entrepreneur from age 9, and I was reading, old school Zig Ziglar books and books like, How to Win Friends and Influence People. But the entire Zig Ziglar series, my main strategy in life has always been, if I can help enough other people get what they want in life, then I'll get what I want in life, which was what Zig Ziglar would say. And I still live by that mantra, and I'm still always trying to help others succeed. And we've had, hundreds of success stories within the Marketing Boost world, but I'm trying to help more.
I think what I'm getting is that, you didn't say this, you didn't say that you don't stand out, but you're saying that you want to reach people who you haven't been reaching. It's not enough. You're not reaching enough people. And what that suggests to me is that, your message could be amplified more. And Marketing Boost, you get a sense of what it is. Okay. It's a Marketing Boost. It's a pretty great name, but what you do in terms of the rewards and the program and all of those other things may not be coming through well enough. And you may want to do some kind of campaign, and again, like I said earlier, it could be to your list, but it's just a very different campaign. And I think, what can be achieved when you do programs like yours, how it can transform the lives of everybody involved. Like you have in this scenario, you have your subscriber, you have their client, you have the hotel or the participating vendor, right? And
Right.
Every one of these people is touched by one transaction, right? And
Absolutely.
so this is just off, top of my head, obviously, but it's like the idea that if one interaction, right, can affect this many lives, how can you not, explore a Marketing Boost, right? Because a Marketing Boost sounds one-sided in on the face of it. Sounds like, oh, I'm going to give a but really, no, it's affecting so many different people. And if we did and this could be a 7-day email campaign, let's just say, but this could really change how your audience that knows you thinks about you and inspire them to start talking about you, right? Amplify. Because the advertising part, I did it for many years, but I always felt like, well, once they go to buy media, it's kind of out of my hands. I can't control what they do with the ad. They may not want to buy media, and then the ad that I wrote doesn't get seen. If it's social media, I don't know whether it's going to be really seen or resonate. It's such a strange animal. I follow all that stuff because it's my business, but I become increasingly excited by real interaction. And the fact is, if somebody's somewhat engaged with you, they may get more engaged with you as a result of some kind of campaign that you're doing to them, to your existing audience of subscribers, but it's a challenge, Marco, because it really does need to stand out. And that's where I think what I do comes in. I almost set myself up for have to be like to really deliver, right? But you know, the business, you always kind of under promise and over deliver. You
Right.
set reasonable goals, but you know you're kind of doing something that's going to be a little bit lofty. And if you hit it out of the park, you're going to be a hero. And that's how I stand out. You
Right.
know,
Right.
if you know, I have you know, if I had a recent, you know, that the email stuff is on my mind because I had a recent campaign. It's been very successful. And the open rates, you know, when you do this stuff, you know, an open rate of a group of people that you already know and have of, you know, 20% is great. You know, in this case, it was getting into like the over 50%. And I was like, okay, well, something we're saying is really like
Yeah.
resonating with these people with all the BS that they've got in their inbox and all the stuff they're reading mine. And that's like almost like it goes back to the stand-up comedy. It's almost like that instant gratification of, wow, I really penetrated. I actually resonated with them. And I love those challenges. So
Yeah,
I don't know what we did, but that
the
was my,
subject line, did you write that subject line that really got the open
that's
mic?
right.
Yeah. So
That's
yeah,
right.
well, in a few seconds here, you really, kind of opened up. I could see the value of what you bring to the table, because I have never thought about the idea of, as you say, the one-dimensional marketing boost. What can we do to help you grow, your business with more leads, with more transactions, with the adding of the incentives? And then you're taking it to, think about, boom, what you're doing here. Every time you give somebody an incentive, you're helping them travel more affordably. You're helping fill these hotels with rooms that would have otherwise gone empty. And the resort is generating additional revenue versus no revenue. And so they're getting, they're helping employ the wait staff, the bartenders, the casino staff, et cetera, all because you were participating in giving away a complimentary hotel stay. The restaurant vouchers that you give away were saving your client money on dining out, but they were also putting bodies, filling those tables at the restaurant, where they were helping, employ everybody from the bartender, the waiter, the business owner, to the suppliers, the food suppliers, the farmer. It's like all of this based on getting somebody to take action with your product or service. So anyway, yeah, I could see how that could be dived into further and somehow create that into a movement versus just a.
Yeah. Also, well, thank you, Marco, but also because people want, these days especially, are tuned into service, helping other people. Obviously they got to look out for their bottom line and they want to help themselves, but they also know that if it's good beyond that, and not in a way that's like philanthropic, because you can always do that. I do a lot of that, connecting my clients to, philanthropic efforts that are really well suited to them and on message. And I love that. But that's not what this is. This is the ripple effect of boosting your own company's reputation or image. And it's the ripple effect of how many people that helps. It's like I could see it being like, let's say the campaign, and I always say, don't hold me to the, this is what we do in these calls. I say, don't hold me to it. The point is for it to get better. But I would say, like, you could call this campaign the big boost, right? And you say the big boost starts with you, and you're talking to your subscriber, to your customer. The big boost starts with you. It's like, let's see how many people's lives we can influence by doing this program. And it's all coming from what you're already doing. And that's why I say it's like message therapy, because there's nothing that I made up out of nothing. I didn't make anything up out of thin air. I took it all from who you are and what you're doing. So that's the exciting part.
Hold that thought. We'll be right back. We're going to take a break from one of our sponsors.
It's time to wow, surprise, and impress your clients with the most powerful customer draw card available anywhere. The Marketing Boost Solutions Show is brought to you by Marketing Boost, where you can get valuable travel and restaurant incentives to drive your leads from prospects to paying customers. Now you can offer complimentary hotel stays in over 130 destinations worldwide. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com and try it for free right now.
Welcome back to the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. We are here discussing branding your business with the expert Hirsch Rapsin from Yes Brand, a comedian turned brand expert, advertising. Oh, he's actually always been in the advertising industry and branding industry, but love his story. We're enjoying here and talking about how using Marketing Boost as as an example of his message therapy, coming up with some great ideas that I've been jotting notes down left and right. Again, how to create campaigns. Maybe they're just simple as creating a new email campaign with the right messaging, the right subject lines, and finding a way to resonate with your brand and your audience. So if you're here listening, take it away, Hirsch. Give us some more wisdom.
Give us more. Do it stretch. Do another 5 minutes. That it is fun. It is fun to, what we were saying before the break is that, the stuff doesn't come from thin air. It comes from the conversations that we have. And when I was, first working with clients and doing client dinners, it started with me just telling jokes and getting to know the people and doing what we consider as a comedian crowd work, except I was like an account executive doing crowd work. But I realized that it all came from knowing who I was talking to, what people's personalities were. So reading the room is super important. And it's a skill that works in comedy and it works in branding, and you do the same when you're meeting people for the first time, prospects, clients, affiliates,
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all it's a reading and writing game.
Cool. Do you have any like case study that you'd like to talk about that you've how the client came on board with you and some of the successes that you've brought into some of your clients?
Well, this current one that I'm working on, which is the one where I'm wondering whether I probably shouldn't speak about it in detail yet because it's still underway. The campaign's still underway. Usually when I do a case study, I clear it with the client first, so I'll maybe go to a different one, but because we were talking about the emails, this one is really good in that, honestly, it's for a writing tool, but it's not about writing copy or emails or communicating. What I was really proud of with it was that I was able to create an entire campaign, which consists probably of 30 emails, to different tiers of different, lists. And there's some are hot, some are warm, some are cold, so three to six sets of emails, all with the voice of the brand, but with this kind of omniscient, like third party voice that is a person. It's not even me because I'm not writing as myself. It's their brand. And having those open rates that we talked about, 50, 60% open rates, and then click rates that are like 30% of the total delivered, let's say, which is great because if you did 2%, 3%, you could get sales from that. And like I say, it's in the midst, keep fingers crossed and, let's hope it does really well, but it's already successful that way. And I think that's the power of brand voice, right? That's the power of brand voice, is that it's not, these emails aren't coming from Marco Torres. Like I would probably refer to you in the emails or refer to the organization. But it's a new voice. It's a voice, but it's the marketing boost voice. And I think that that lays the groundwork for an amazing relationship between the audience and the brand. And that could be on television, that could be online, that could be in events, promotional events. It could be anywhere, but it really is proof. I think the reason I'm excited about it as a case study, because it will be a case study, is that it really created a relationship between the audience and the brand. And that's what it's all about. And trust, a sense of trust, a sense of awareness. And I would be happiest to find out how many of these people that were reached then went on to, like how much awareness really changed, because it wasn't public, right? It wasn't a campaign that was public facing. It went to a list,
Right. So let me ask you this question. That sounds incredible. I hold my breath here, waiting to hear the results of that campaign.
Mm-hmm.
But what do you mean by establishing, before you brand yourself, find yourself, and establishing of clear communications among all channels? What are you referring to there on your website?
So a lot of times companies, and sometimes the bigger they are, the more problematic this is, they have an external persona, and they have the internal workings of the company and how it works, So when I say before you brand yourself, find yourself, I'm like, get down with your bad self, figure out who you are, what you stand for. Every brand is personal. I don't care if it's your personal brand and you're a speaker or a coach or whatever it might be, or you sell, you're a software as a service company, whatever it could be. It has a personality, like I was just saying. So figure out who you are. Like that's the therapy part. Who you are, what you want out of life, what you're doing this for. Why are you doing this? Is it for time? Is it for family? Is it only for 5 years? All of that stuff matters. All that truth, some of it you may not like, all it factors into who you are. So when you figure that out, then you can brand something. You can't brand something that doesn't exist. You can't say, I had a great idea for a brand called Coffee Cup, and it's going to be whatever. It's going to be coffee cups that are what. So I think, that's super important. And then the through line of communication, where instead of having, you can have, if you're big, you can have a PR firm, you can have an ad agency, you can have a marketing agency, you can have a media buying, you can have all the things you want, but align them, don't position them separately. So the way I think of it always is like a cone, like a kind of an expanding cone, like a thing like this, or looks kind of like a rainbow almost, where you,
there you
right?
Go. Yep.
And in the center there is like the core values of the company, and then there's the C-suite of the company, or the owner, or the or the founders, right there, and then that message now goes to managers, right, of departments or of offices or whatever it might be, and then the employees. Let's imagine it was a manufacturing plant or something, just as an example. Or it could be a gym, it could be a gym. So you're going from the managers to the trainers, or the managers to the people on the floor, we'll just say. Could be the salespeople in a store. And then you take that message and you go out to the public. But by the time it gets to the public, this is my patented thing, but okay. By the time it goes out to the public, it has generated through all these levels, so that it's all consistent. And now the employees, when they get an email, they know that they're getting an email that's also the same truth that the public is getting. And what I've found with some of my bigger clients that I've worked with, where I actually helped them, where I actually did this for a company at first, was that their employees were miserable because they had a really great public facing brand with a really cool image, but the employees didn't feel they were treated that way, or that the company was presented to them that way. It was like working in the kitchen of a restaurant and saying, I would never eat the food there. And so we had to really go. And that's why I said, you got to get down with yourself, and like be honest and be like, okay, well, we got to fix this stuff. It's not an HR problem. It's, you got to bring me into every phase. If I just came in and met with HR, I don't think I would solve anything. I would give HR a bunch of happy, horse manure to say, but I don't know that it would help. So it's like, fix things from the inside out, project from the inside out, and the outside will get this. You'll get that radiant kind of exposure that you want. So
in today's world, let me ask you, I mean, branding mistakes like the Bud Light situation now, or should companies attempt to stay out of all politics, or should they, if that's their value, go ahead. If they do have values for or against that kind of wokeness stuff, should they, make it clear? Honestly, I've always torn with that, because I am, my personal views on things, I normally keep them out of my business, but I'm more and more tempted to stop doing that and just let the world know who I am and what my core values are, and risk pissing off however many people don't agree. Or do I just keep that and try to, not make the Bud Light mistake? But not that I'm going that direction, but I think I think you get where I'm going with the question.
Yeah. No, it's a great place to go, Marco, because the fact is, sitting on the sidelines used to be more possible. First of all, you have people being, very polarized in many cases, so they don't want to hear other people necessarily. And I don't think it's great to feed into divisiveness, but I do think that it's important to be yourself. And the exercise that I recommend is to turn the heat down on stuff, to just take a moment. You're only with yourself. Like I say, get down with your bad self. Just think about the little truths that you believe, the good things that you believe, the things that you feel will make the world a better place or really add to your existence and all that. Start with those little ones. Again, that same thing, right? Start with those little ones and build them out. And if you find yourself on a relevant point of view to, so in other words, it actually does matter to your business. You're not coming out, you're not working in the rewards industry and you're offering your views on cattle raising. Nobody cares because it's not relevant. But if you find a point of relevance, then you know where you stand and you can say, yeah, I have an opinion about this. That's my opinion. It's like
whether it relates to travel or it relates to staffing or relates to something along these lines. Yeah.
Also, that's another area that I work in, which is where you have the personal brand and the brand. And is there a difference in that? Well, this doesn't matter to my brand, this is, but my personal thing is such and such. It really I feel like intent is a really important part of it. Are you intending to improve people's, state of mind and relations around the world in whatever way? By being honest, by being willing to listen to other people, by being, what's the attitude? Is it a building attitude or a deconstructing attitude? Is it constructive or destructive? So if it's constructive in any way, then I think it's good to have a point of view. And I think that the more we express ourselves, but listen and are open, the better we're equipped to get along. Because if we just crawl in our little hole and say, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, I'm just going to keep my mouth shut, I'm not going to say anything, that's insulting to the other side, right, of an opinion. Mm-hmm. And I always strive for conversation where it can be had. Like, I don't know that my personal brand would be to exclude anyone, right? It would be to include people, which means that I have to include people with a different point of view, or I'm not being inclusive if I'm limiting who I want to talk with or to. So
got it.
Constructive
it's
versus
always
deconstructive.
It's a delicate balance, especially in today's world with that branding. But let's hold that thought right there. We'll be right back from another sponsor.
Is your business on autopilot yet? Do you have automation in place to capture, nurture, and convert prospects into clients via email, SMS, ringless voicemails, appointment setting? Get all the inbound and outbound marketing tools in one place. Go to marketingboostsolutions.com for more on automating your business so you can make money while you sleep.
Welcome back to the Marketing Boost Solutions podcast. We're here talking with Hirsch Rapsin about branding, the owner of Yes Brand. He's a lifetime comedian who's taken that point of view, that wit, that expertise, and turned it into being an expert at helping brands create and define their messaging to scale their business. So back to Hirsch. Take it away. Give us some more wisdom, Hirsch.
More wisdom. How much wisdom can one man have? How much wisdom can one man have? Meet Hirsch, the wisdom. It'd be funny to be a wisdom expert. You say, what are you? I'm an expert in wisdom. So what does that mean? Well, I don't have any personal wisdom, but I actually can recognize it in others. And you, sir, are a wisdom practitioner, like the likes of which I've never seen. Say, well, I actually think you're a bullshit artist. I say, yes, that's another way of putting it. I prefer wisdom expert, but okay. But that does lead us, Marco, to the authenticity question, which we always come up against in today's world. We hear about how much people want and crave authenticity, which is funny to me, because who doesn't? Like, is there anybody that's like, oh, no, I want the BS. Give me the BS. Give me the false promises,
Yeah.
Just
tell me what I want to hear.
Tell me what I want to hear. And then, and take my money and don't give me anything in return. I prefer that. Of course we want authenticity, but that goes back to that communication thing. If we're going to be authentic, maybe we won't always agree. Maybe we'll get uncomfortable. It's like movies, like horror movies are so big these days. I think because people crave a safe confrontation with the ugliness of the world, and horror movies are that. So it makes sense that with so many horrible things that happen to people, or that people endure, they want some fantastical version of it.
And we want to watch it from the comfort of our living room or from the theater without knowing this is still just a movie. Even though I hate those movies, I overreact. My feet are always jumping.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah. No, I love them. I love horror movies.
Oh, that's funny. All right. Well, so back to, speaking of authenticity, and one of the things we talked about earlier was being a philanthropist or helping. And just to drop this into those that are listening, one of the campaigns I'm working on is providing more ideas, because many of the Marketing Boost members have figured out that they can lead by giving, by supporting nonprofits, supporting local fundraising opportunities, by using the complimentary hotel stays, for example, or the rest of the hotel savings cards as rewards for minimum donations, or they let the nonprofits auction off the complimentary hotel stays or sell raffle tickets for the complimentary hotel stays. So they can go in and sponsor a local nonprofit without costing them next to nothing by providing them these complimentary hotel stays. And then they get a chance to take their sales hat off, rub shoulders with philanthropists, and support these nonprofits without necessarily having to write a check. And yet they're looked at as the authority, the expert, the local hero here to help a nonprofit or fundraising drive, raise some money. And then they're generating leads by default. So it's kind of, I've got a lot of guys in the insurance industry doing that and realtors. So it's kind of a different way. And that would be an interesting campaign that I could work on, is, kind of like we're talking about with that email messaging and making it more multidimensional.
Yeah, for sure. And that's, again, another tone, another side of a brand, the philanthropic side. So again, there's a subtlety involved in the voice of the brand when you're doing something that is a little more altruistic, so it's a very interesting idea. It's a nice thought.
Mm-hmm. Well, Hirsch, we're coming up on the hour here since we got started. And we have to thank our audience for taking the time to listen to us. Hopefully we brought you some wisdom, some value bombs that you can take and implement. How do people get a hold of you, Hirsch? And what's the best way to find you and find more about your services?
Yeah, the best way to find me is to go to Get Message Therapy, MESSAGE messagetherapy.com, or my website, HershRephun.com, HershRephun. And you can find me there.
Perfect. And on these sites, you've got a blog, so if you go to HershRephun.com, you will find the blog, and all of these are going to be in the notes below, both on the podcast and on the YouTube channel. So just look below here for these links to go to the website here. You can read the blog, you can follow him on his podcast, and get a real kick out of both learning and laughing with the Hersh Rephun Yes Brand podcast. What else do we have? Do you have anything else for us here, Hirsch, that we can provide to our listeners?
No, I mean, that's great. As I mentioned, I'm happy to do a half hour, call with people on that. If they go to getmessagetherapy.com, it'll be right there. There'll be a little button for it, but it would be very similar to what you and I, did in
right.
our time. That was really great fun and great example. So I really try to offer concrete reactions,
people thinking something on where they can start going, whether they hire you or not. Now that consultation is $14.95 for the 30-minute consultation, or what do we get there?
It's complimentary. And it's complimentary. It's like we said earlier, I don't know what someone may or may not need. So it would be wrong of me to even quote anything to anybody until we talk. It's like, but I feel like the give part, the nice part is it's the same that I do on Yes Brand on my show. You'll hear that on my show too. I'll talk to a brand. I'll come up with a campaign. They may love it. They may change the name of their company based on it. But that's all part of that continuous spirit of kind of keeping the world creative, keeping it positive, constructing, so that's how I roll.
That's awesome. So folks, it is a very, a high value consultation offered free. I would take advantage of the links below, book your free consultation with Hirsch, and get a message therapy. I mean, if you were hiring a therapist, you'd be paying $300 an hour just to listen to your BS. With Hirsch,
that's right.
With Hirsch, he will take that BS and turn it into a construct and help you define your messaging and help grow your business. Hirsch, thank you very much again for being on our show. We appreciate your message therapy, your wisdom, your wit, and thank you very much for that.
Thanks for listening to another episode of Marketing Boost Solutions Podcast with your hosts, Captain Marco Torres. Now it's on you. Take the next step now. Go to marketing.Hersh for more on how you can wow, delight, and surprise your clients with the most amazing draw card on the planet. So stay thirsty, my friends. Stay thirsty for knowledge. See you next time.